Well, here we are, our 3 of 3 on talking about minority mental health for Minority Mental Health Awareness Month. And I'm excited to be here with you, Alyssa, as we continue this conversation. Today, what we're going to be doing is talking about how the life model and the concepts of the life model and life model for therapy impact how we as therapists treat those who have been disenfranchised and have experiences of mistreatment in our culture. And I'm excited to have this conversation with you.
I mean, obviously, I love looking at the life model, right? I think that it gives a lot of hope to things. I think as we start to talk about this, what comes to mind is a friend of mine, fellow therapist who was born with disabilities, had a lot of surgeries, even under the age of 5, had to learn how to re-walk. I mean, all of these things. And even to this day, she still lives with disability. And I asked her once, gosh, what has it been like for you in your life to experience disability? How do you feel like people treat you? What has been challenging about it? And her answer for me was just it was deeply impactful. What she said was, Alyssa, I have had so many people in my life who have surrounded me with support, who have loved me through this, who have shown up for me time and time and time again, that honestly, I don't look back on my life and think of what has been hard about it. What I look at is, wow, I have such an amazing community of people around me because of my disability, which I just thought was a powerful way to view it. But I think that it also speaks to how belonging, the ability to rewire our brain from trauma and back towards trust and love and Hesed love, right?
Yeah, that's so good, Alyssa. Yes, I think that's exactly what we want to talk about here today is that we all have differences, and really when we consider there's no human that's born perfectly, right? And I think the life model is an idealized conceptualization of what would it look like if a human formed in a perfect way in terms of attachment and psychological health. But the whole idea is that that's not even possible on this earth, that we're all born with unique characteristics. And like Brene Brown says, we're perfectly imperfect and wired for struggle. Yet there are some things that society almost terms as bad, and the differences are bad, and different groups will disenfranchise other groups, judging those differences as bad or worse than. And so though some of us can walk around culture feeling like, man, I got the raw end of the deal here. I was born into this body or born with this idiosyncrasy or abnormality or whatever, and feel as though there's something wrong with them and not be able to overcome the feeling of shame and actualize potential. And a life model would say that's just wrong. That, I mean, I think more than just life model would say that. I think that is it's common held belief in society that when we're actualizing, we say that's not a healthy way to be. And I love the way that life model brings in this concept of belonging as important. That belonging means I am connecting in a group of that is not is different than myself, and forming a sense of connection and deeply deep compassion and attachment in a way that actually brings health and healing to me.
Yeah, that's right. Well, because really when we look at our identity, through the life model lens, our identity is formed through others reflecting back to us. They're mirrors for us, right? Whether that's our parents, whether that's our friend groups, it's society as a whole. And so when we are able to truly love people for who they are, not because they perform, not because they look a certain way, but because they exist, that we can, our faces light up to be with them. There is this hesed love, right? This sticky love. Um, I think what ends up happening is it does create the sense of belonging. Discrimination distorts that. It distorts our identity. Belonging starts to restore it, right? As people start to look at us with joy and love in their eyes towards us and say, there's something good there. There's
Yeah.
something good in you, even if you're different, right?
Yeah.
Um, that's true belonging, right?
Yes, and light model has that accent on the concept of joy. That joy means I'm glad to be with you, and what we want to do is grow high levels of not just tolerance but love, right? Love
Yeah.
for others in spite of differences, in spite of whether you're annoyed with someone or not. That we say in life model, relationships are more important than problems. That I'm looking at you and I'm saying, you belong to me and I belong to you, no matter our differences. And that goes back to what we were talking about in one of these earlier videos about the us and them mentality. Like, we're actually creating, instead of an us and them, uh, enemy mode mentality, we're creating a sense of a we mentality, that we belong to each other and we are creating joyful identity, group identity together, that we can
Yeah.
have community, right? When there's grace for one another's differences, even for weaknesses. Now, some of these differences we're talking about are not weaknesses, they're just differences. But
Right.
sometimes there are actual weaknesses. Sometimes there's triggers that cause us to act a certain way. We expect babies and children to act immature, but sometimes adults are showing up immaturely. And then we judge and blame them and we disenfranchise from them because we say, oh, they're too much, they're too difficult, they're annoying. Versus, you know what? You're going to show up like that. And I may have a conversation with you and we may have some accountability and some discussion, but you belong to me and I belong to you. And I don't love you any less because
Mm.
you have a hard time showing up sometimes.
Yeah, it's that steadfast
Mm,
love that we
that's the
as
word.
believers are called to, where we keep choosing each other over and over again, um, in moments of misunderstanding, in moments of hurt and pain, um, in moments of differences, we keep choosing one another. That's Hesed love, right? It's that sticky love that is not easily pulled apart. And it
Yes.
means that love is not conditional. It's not when you say something wrong or you're growing in your maturity and I don't like it and it's hard for me that I disconnect from you, but I stay with you in it, and help continue to create, belonging with you. But also, in addition to that, that I speak your identity over you, right? I reflect back to you what I see God has placed in you. That's beautiful.
And I think you're speaking about another life model term, that hesed love, or I think I think it's a Greek word, correct? And it's more like chesed. And it's spoken about in a lot of the life model curriculum. I know Ed Curry talks about it, Chris Kersey, Dr. Wilder. There's this idea that it's sticky love, the same love that God has for the people of Israel in the Old Testament, that even though they were prostituting themselves to idols and rejecting him, he was like, I love you. I'll never give up on you. You're always going to be my people and I will always be your God. And so we go back to that concept in terms of God's character, not going into enemy mode, not despising or rejecting those who reject you, but love that never gives up. Like, I'm with you. It's like the marriage vow concept of in sickness and in health till death do us part. This is my vow to you. I will be with you through it all, through thick and thin, through the difficulty. And I think that's what we're talking about. Like, how do we show up for one another like that? And as therapists, we really want to think about that with clients. I mean, talk about unconditional positive regard.
Mm.
That's what this is. We're trained according to that. Like, but we can't just do that. That's not just an action that a human can do. That is a supernatural love that flows through us to our clients. I mean, sometimes our clients have done things, atrocities, that without these concepts and this ability to be given over to love, we may really reject that person. We may be disgusted by the things that they've done. You may be tricked as a hurt that's been caused to us by people who have done these kinds of things.
Hmm. Yeah, that's right. And I think, one of the things that you're touching on, Monica, is that this is not easy work to do, to love people unconditionally, to constantly be creating belonging. Really, what it takes is what the life model talks about as far as having a protector brain, being in the role of somebody who is a gentle protector, who's always managing safety and the relational bond between two people versus going into enemy mode, which you referenced earlier, right? Where we can either go into a more of a predator role or a possum role, which I would love for you to unpack some more. Do you want to talk about a little bit what predator and possum roles are?
For sure. I like the idea or the concept that comes from Joy Starts Here of a high joy versus a low joy community. What does it mean to be in a high joy community? How can we cultivate high joy community versus a low joy community? And that has to do with what life model terms the response styles, the predator, possum, protector. And this is rooted in neuroscience. The predatory brain is a brain that's living from the back of the brain, from the amygdala, the fight or flight center, and is more of a fear-based brain. It's survival of the fittest. I'm thinking about a wolf pack, that this is how they function. And there's some redemptive quality to it, because if we get the highest predator, the strongest predator as our leader, it will safeguard our community. But we're not animals, we're humans.
Mm.
And so we're not
Yeah.
trying to live from that predatory mentality. We're trying to actualize our potential to be protectors, which is like Jesus. But the
Yeah.
possum response style is also a fear response. So we've got the predator, fear response. Possum is also
Mhm.
fear response, but the possum runs from the predator and is scared and has trouble confronting the predator. And talk about discrimination, talk about mistreatment. I mean, these response styles apply so well to that whole conversation that we've been having in the first couple of videos in the series. But I think what we are working to do as therapists and what we're wanting to model and help our clients to do is become protectors. How do we do that? We do it by becoming like Christ. This is the fruit of the Spirit, because this is not a natural human wiring. It's something that we grow into. It's when we grow that we mentality instead of the us and them, when we grow the internal strength to confront the predator, but confront in love. We can confront
Yes.
in love. We don't have to confront in aggression. We can even be angry and still love. And Jesus models
Yeah.
that for us in the
Yeah.
Gospels.
Yeah. And I think being able to really, whether it's moving ourselves from that predator driven fear, which I think can oftentimes come across as more aggressive. That is what you think of as, a protector coming in. Um, Or like the possum, which oftentimes shuts down, they get quiet, they get small. With either one of those, when I think about me in particular, when I move into those zones, a predator or possum, I don't need aggression in those. I don't need to be forced out of hiding, or I don't need to be shamed and told what I'm doing wrong. What I need is a gentle invitation back into safety. And that really requires that there is somebody that is able to stay in that protector mindset, right? That gentle protector who can come alongside of you and gently remove the fear, create safety and love so that there is joy-filled belonging that's happening.
So, so beautiful, Alyssa. Thank you for saying that. I just love that concept. And just as a final note, I'm thinking about the idea that Dr. Wilder brought up a few years ago when he said it's not about being empowered, right? So it's not about the disenfranchised and the mistreated being empowered. It's about being fearless. It's about
Mm,
belonging in an ability to have no fear, to speak the truth in love, to say what's needed in situations. And that's really the only way to change society. Because if we're just angry and we're not that anger is a bad thing, you heard me say that earlier, but if we're just being aggressive and doing this out of that same sense of fear and enemy mode, we're not going to change anything. It's fighting fire with fire. But what if we change the game? What if we change the way we're approaching these situations? And what if as therapists, we model that type of love, that type of gentle protector fearlessness in the way that we're talking to our clients and in the way that we are talking to them about what's going on in their lives? I think we could really see some shifts. So that's one of the reasons I love the life model. I think it's amazing.
yeah. Monica, would you say that line from Jim Wilder again? Because I think it has a lot of power to it.
Yes.
Would you say that one more time?
Yes. And this is in one of the recordings that you can find on Joyce Streams on the lightmodelworks.com website. But he said, it's not about being empowered. It's about being fearless. Because if we
Mm,
are fearless, right, we're going to confront these atrocities with love, but without fear.
yeah.
And that's really what's going to change society. He talks about in Pandora Problem how it's about changing the group around the problem. It's not about confronting as much as it is about confronting in love.
Wow, that was so powerful. Thank you.
Yes, yes. I'm so glad we were able to have this conversation. I mean, you and I could talk about this stuff all day, every day. I know. So thank you for being a part of the dialogue, Alyssa. And I hope the people listening will really be blessed by what we've talked about here today.
Yeah, same. Thanks for having me on. It's been fun to unpack this, and yeah, I look forward to doing it again.
Right. Talk soon.